Greetings and welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie. My name's Jason.
And I'm Rich.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Steve.
And it's the video games of 1999. And guys, before we get into the video games of 1999, I realised a few days ago that we announced that Steve is joining the crew permanently on a Prepare to Fast Forward episode. And not as many people listen to that episode as they do the main Wolfie podcast episode. So people might be a bit confused on why he's actually here. So I just
why are you here, Steve?
Why are you here, Steve?
I just stumbled into the clean feed and you were like, do you want to stick around? And I was like, yeah, all right, why not?
Why not? See where it goes. Let's see where we end up.
Yeah.
Well, for our reboot, which is coming very soon, we wanted to add an extra member to the crew, and Steve was the obvious choice. He very happily said yes. We kind of brought him on a bit early just because we wanted him on, and we couldn't not have Steve on a Dreamcast specific episode. Just be too rude, really, wouldn't it?
Wow. I've got some experience.
Yeah, a little bit. So if anyone's listening who doesn't know, Steve used to be on the Dreamcast Years podcast with myself, and Rich used to be on as well. So he's talked a lot of stuff about video games that were out around the time that the Dreamcast was out, and the actual Dreamcast games as well, and talked a lot of games that wasn't around at the time the Dreamcast was around. But very knowledgeable guy, and very, very excited to do some podcasting with yourself. So welcome to the Wolfie crew, Steve, for the second time.
Thank you so much. That's very kind. It's very kind, and I'm very excited to be here as well. Also, anyone who didn't know this and hasn't listened to the Prepare to Fast Forward, go listen to it, because it was a bit of a banger, I think.
Oh, It was. It was really good fun to record that one, actually, yeah. And looking forward to doing the next one, because we're going to be doing predictions. We're going to do our predictions of what we might think will happen in 2023 in movies, TV shows, and video games. So I think it's going to be a fun one, that one. So that one should be out in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, I think. So definitely keep an eye out for that one. But anyway, back to now. And we had a magic... Well, I say back to now, but I mean back to 1999.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And, 1999 was a magical year for video games, with a ream of classic games releasing, including Gran Turismo 2, GTA London, Dino Crisis, Super Smash Bros., Siphon Filter, and Silent Hill, just to name a few. 1999 was also the year that Sega World in London's Trocadero closed.
Was that long ago? Jesus.
It was.
It was Namco over all that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was exactly 3 years after it opened on September the 7th.
Wow.
And a bit of a sad time, guys. Did you ever get to go and visit the Sega World at Trocadero?
I knew it was there, but I never ever went.
I think myself and Steve did go, didn't we, when it was Namco?
We went, yes, we did.
Shit.
It was awful. Yeah, it was very disappointing.
It was actually about to close down as well at the time we went, and we were still in the middle of a pandemic. So
we sort of went in, and we very optimistically got a lot of change. We each changed a tenner into some change. Like, let's go spend some money. And then I think we all walked out with like £9 coins each.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah. It's a shame. I mean,
it was rubbish.
I have vague memories of going when in this time period between these 3 years it was actually open a Sega World and going up escalators that had like lights in an arch going up to like he was going through a tunnel or something or other, and there'd just been dodgems I think there was in there, and just a ton of arcade games, and I think I must have had a great time.
I'm sad I never got to do it when it was under the Sega banner. I would have been very happy. I don't know why it never came around, but yeah, never
mind. And I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon with all the ones in Japan shutting down as well. So
that hurt my Yakuza loving heart.
Of course,
Sega amusement places just closing, iconic, and
but it wasn't all bad news for Sega in 1999, because they had a brand new console to launch, the Dreamcast. And if anyone's listening that might not have guessed by now, this episode is going to be just Dreamcast, because basically it's one of the best consoles of all time. So we could not do this, unfortunately. So if anyone who doesn't know anything about the Dreamcast, then we're sorry, but keep on listening, because, you might learn a thing or two and realise your mistakes. Yeah, I'm going to get to you in a minute.
There are plenty of Star Trek games on there, Chris. Oh, no, sorry, there weren't. It wasn't a single one.
So this week we dedicate the entire episode to Sega's hardware swan song. You're going to hear about our Dreamcast stories, hear us discuss the machine itself and how ahead of the time it was, the controllers, the advertising, the amazing VMU, and of course the games, with each of us selecting our top 3 Dreamcast games. But before we do any of that, there's one elephant in the room, and we all need to address this, isn't there, Chris?
What's this?
That I'm not really hearing that on my figment of everyone's imagination.
But you've never owned a Dreamcast, you've never played a Dreamcast, have you?
No.
I've never played one, though. That's terrible.
It's crazy.
1999 was that time of my life anyway where all my friends kind of went in different directions. Some did different GCSEs, so you drift apart when you're at school like that. You meet new people and you don't hang out as much with the old people you used to hang out with. It's a funny time, but my only experience with a Dreamcast is when Rich told me that he'd got one, was it Christmas or birthday? Something?
I got it on day of release.
Or something like that.
October 14th, 1999.
And but I'd only known you for probably 6 months.
Jeez.
At that point, I think, ish, maybe a year. So yeah, my paths never really crossed with a Dreamcast because no one I knew had one, apart from Rich. And
I think
it was
I was
never...
like the only one at school. I think everyone was waiting for the PS2. So
Yeah,
I was
see-
like,
I mean,
I
you
was
know,
the cheerleader at school.
as much as we jab Chris that it's crazy he's never played one, you know, not as many people bought them as
Yeah.
they really needed to, so it's not that surprising really that you didn't get around to
I think it's one of those
playing one.
cases as well, like, where I just don't think I was interested at the time, because I think I had my N64, I still have my old Mega Drive and my old Nintendo, Super Nintendo. It just breezed me by, and I don't know why. I loved my Sega Mega Drive, and I was a PC gamer at that point as well. So, yeah, it's a very, very complicated time, I think. So Dreamcast never really crossed paths with me, unfortunately. But I've heard good things and
Fair
seen
enough.
good things.
We all make mistakes. It's okay, mate. It can't be rectified. You can
I
still
will
buy
get
them now.
my coat and I will mute myself and I will unmute myself in about an hour.
Okay. Awesome.
Sometimes I feel I'm completely on my own. No places to go, no faces to see. Why is it I feel all alone? Tell me when.
Well, let's get into our Dreamcast stories then, guys, and like how we picked ours up, for like the anticipation of it being released and hearing about it for the first time and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, I know Rich has got a good story to tell.
Sure, I have probably
Yes,
have.
yeah.
No
I
pressure.
mean, it's on your Twitter bio, so you know it's
Oh,
there
it's
for
true,
everybody.
yeah. Oh, shit, not this again. Oh, fuck. Like Vietnam flashbacks with this. There are...
So why don't we start with Rich and hear about his Dreamcast origin story, if you like.
Okay. I don't actually remember fully how it sort of came into my conscience. I mean, obviously, at the time, we were just living on a diet of gaming magazines. There was the internet, but it wasn't what it is now. We're not getting slammed with hype and rumours and info about what's coming up next. But obviously, I must have seen it in the magazines in like Total Control and like I think it would have been Edge as well at the time. I was always kind of a Sega kid, with the Mega Drive being my first console that I called my own. I skipped on the Saturn, but I still kind of bled blue. Cut me open, and I'm a Sega kid. So when the Dreamcast got announced, I was hyped. I mean, I was already very much enamoured with the PlayStation, the N64, but at that age, I was always after the next big thing. Always having that conversation with my parents about, okay, Mum, this thing's coming out. I want to trade in what I've currently got. And they were like, no, you've only had this one for the last few months. I'm like, yeah, I know, but have you seen the graphics? So, and the Dreamcast was that. I knew I had to have it. So I did go into Electronics Boutique months in advance, put down a pre-order for it with a copy of Sonic Adventure and Sega Rally 2. Excited for the September 23rd release, which didn't come to pass. And so, I basically had to wait till October 14th. I took the day off school with a dentist appointment and stayed home. I went and picked it up the morning of, so excited. 2 controllers, a VMU, the 2 games mentioned previous, and yeah, ran home. And I loved it. I don't know what the pull was. I mean, yeah, okay, I was a Sega kid, but there was just something about it. I think it scratched the itch. It was the age I was at where games weren't just this like toy. I was starting to appreciate being marketed to, and the image, even things like the logo, the name, the magazines that would come out. If they were presented in such and such a way, they appealed to me more. I was like 16 at the time, and I found like the Dreamcast was different. It didn't feel like what even Sony was putting out. It had this really kind of cool lifestyle, kind of zen kind of aesthetic to it. The logo, the boxes, it just sold itself to me before it even came out.
Do you think it was because, as well, like the Sega logo wasn't really plastered all over it? It was the Dreamcast. The Sega logo was put away in the corner.
Yeah, they were definitely trying to get around the failure of the Saturn. I know in America they still slap Sega on it. They were very much the Sega Dreamcast. But yeah, Europe and Japan, it was quite... Yeah, they really did rein in on that. You had to turn the box over to see the Sega logo. But yeah, I just don't know what it was that really spoke to me. I think it was more than just, it's the new box of tricks. It's the new bit of tech that's better than the last. There was something else going on. The online connectivity as well. I mean, at the time, I wasn't in an internet household. Probably like a year later, I actually had it on PC. So the Dreamcast was my gateway as well for that. I still remember the evening that my dad relented and sat upstairs with me as I went through the terms and conditions on the Dream King browser, signed up. So got my 30 minutes a night of internet use.
Wow.
Yeah, God forbid my mum picked up the phone. And it was just...
those days.
I had so many memories, though, seriously, like going on VMU sites and downloading game saves because I was too shit to complete Sonic Adventure. So I would just put other people's game saves on my VMU. This was in 1999. I was pulling...
I mean, that's just crazy, isn't it?
Someone else in Europe or in the world. Oh, look, they've got a 100% complete Sonic Adventure file. Put it straight to my memory card /VMU. That's it. Boom. It was just so different. And everything around it with the magazines, they were just a really nice kind of scene going on. Like DC UK and the official Dreamcast magazine are like some of the best gaming mags ever. And I think what spoke to me as well with it at the time, and again, it goes back to how old I was, and I think I was a bit more in tune with the industry as well. And I knew at the time, like, the Saturn was a bit of a flop, and Sega were kind of hedging their bets on this. This was their last shot, basically. And there was something about the Dreamcast. It was that kind of little engine that could. You're wanting to get behind it. You wanted to kind of support it because you knew that, we're living in a world that's increasingly being dominated by Sony, and you had the looming shadow of the PS2 ahead. And I kind of would put my eggs in the basket of the underdog, I guess. That's kind of how I roll, I guess. So yeah, there was something fun about being almost kind of second best and hoping that maybe this is gonna explode and be a really big thing, and like it's gonna just take over the world and sell more than 9.5 million units worldwide. So
that's a really low number. I didn't know it was that low.
It's a very low number.
Yeah.
I didn't know the numbers of sales.
Yeah.
That's literally just hit me. I was like, oh wow, that's
Yeah. Had an amazing launch. But
I don't know if we're going to get into like the failure of the Dreamcast, but if you don't know, Chris, there is this thing nosedived and turned into a fireball. It was
I know the rough story from obviously Rich has talked about it for many years on and off, and it comes up on like the random YouTube videos you get of like failed whatever or underestimated or overestimated sales, and so it's been in the zeitgeist for me, but I had no idea it was that low. Did you think part of it's from removing the Sega name as well? Because it's a really weird concept, because not many places have done that. My only brush with that, and yes, I'm going to get nerdy here, is when they took Star Trek off of Enterprise, and it hurt it.
Fair enough.
No, it did.
No, I totally get that. I understand that.
It's stripping that name and giving it a one name, one identity thing to turn it into an event, a thing. And then, do you think that hurt it?
Dreamcast's failure is not one thing. It is many, many, many things all accumulated together. I think it could be arguable that that's part of it, although that's not something that they did in the US, though. That was just a...
I think it boils all the way back to even the Mega 32 Saturn days and the burn that people got from then.
Exactly,
and that kind of just carried on through to the Dreamcast.
A lot of people didn't trust Sega anymore, and they had fairly good reason for that too, because Sega made so many missteps up to the Dreamcast. And I mean, to be fair, it's not the least successful console ever, but it's the comparison of how good the console is when compared to how much it failed that makes it like such a big deal.
Yeah,
but it's really baffling because, like you guys have brought up on many occasions as well, like it was so far ahead of its time conceptually and features. I'm just trying to work out why it didn't take on, why more people weren't interested in it.
I think it's almost part of it was that it was. People have said this before. It was actually kind of ahead of its time to the point that people were still kind of
ready for it,
happy to be like, "I've got my PlayStation. I'm good, thanks." You know, maybe less so in 64, but people were like, "Nah, I'm good."
I don't think people could really grasp the ideas of what a Dreamcast could do. Like what you just mentioned there, Rich, about you being able to go on the internet and download someone's save file onto your memory card, and then you can use that save file on your own game. And I don't think people have really grasped the idea that you could do things like that on the Dreamcast.
This is what baffles me, because I was a PC gamer at the time, and I used to download mods from websites and on old LimeWire, kids. LimeWire.
Hell yeah.
And I used to download map packs and all that kind of thing, and then I used to just install them straight into the game directory. So every time the game booted up, it booted up all of these things that I downloaded, these packs and maps and objects and all that. And again, you could download people's data. Yeah. And if you deposited it in the correct folder, and I used to be like proper into it. That's probably why the Dreamcast passed me by, because I wasn't interested at the time. But I had no idea until Rich mentioned it a few minutes ago that you could do the same on a Dreamcast as you could on PC and download other people's data, install it into the directory drives, and then boom, it's yours. So that on a console as well. In 1999, like, wow. Like
that probably would have flown better today, where obviously now people, I think the whole like PC gaming and like console, the lines are kind of blurred a bit more. There is a degree of modding you can do in some games now. I think they do it on the Fallout on the consoles.
On the console, they did, but it's an extremely walled garden.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's because of the meta gamification of every layer of video games these days, with trophies and also monetization. The idea of downloading a save file is just not something that the developers want to be able to do anymore, because you can fuck up all the internal systems that they've built around it.
Yeah, I just think probably back in the day, it was probably a much more of a chasm between like console gaming and like the PC.
For sure,
the PC gaming was definitely more of that closeted kind of bedroom, gamer playing Rise of the Robots.
Yeah, well, the reason games consoles exist is because they take away the barriers to entry, right? This is a simple thing. You plug it into your telly, and it just goes. So you don't want to introduce all of these complicated bits that you have on PC gaming.
So that's a weird way you should say it, because I was doing online PC gaming way before it was on consoles.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, same.
I remember playing Counter-Strike, and we did it at school, didn't we? Some genius uploaded Counter-Strike.
Oh yeah,
Counter-Strike and Half-Life to the school servers. Like, whoa, what the hell? And someone figured out where it was, and then we just started playing it on our lunch breaks and after school. But
awesome times.
Oh, that was great. Why the cleaners used to come around at like fucking 5 p.m. Why are you still here? Schoolwork. And but yeah, I was
painting a cock in Counter-Strike on the wall somewhere.
Yeah, and I remember like I was playing online Star Trek Elite Force as well with people from around the world, and it was a normal thing for me.
Yeah,
but not a lot of people had done it. The people that I knew, so it was so strange. But now I'm at a point in my life where I can't give a fuck about online gaming, because what's the point when I get sniped as soon as I respawn?
Yeah.
Yes, when some 12-year-old kid in Afghanistan's better than me. It's like, okay.
Christ. It's generally sad though to look at where we're at now and see in a way where it started with the Dreamcast. Like the Dreamcast deserves so much credit for some of the things we've got now, and it's kind of, I don't think enough people are gonna raise a glass to it and toast it and be like, thank you for influencing some of the stuff you did. I mean, God, we're playing bloody on headsets, playing against people in Europe on like Unreal Tournament and Quake Arena. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like on a console in the 90s. Like, it's just
On 56k dial-up.
exactly.
Less than that, even, I think. How fast? 33k, the first mode. Yeah, crazy. The Dreamcast was a proper bridge between old gaming and current gaming, and everybody walked all over it to get where we are now. And you're quite right; no one looks back and thinks the Dreamcast is the reason we were able to get here. It's just not. It's just not thought of in that way.
Rich, can we hear about your Dreamcast bin story, and then we'll move over to Steve.
Here we go again.
Because everyone, people listening right now have probably heard this story, but I'm sure there's still a lot of people listening that don't know this story. And
I think I know what's coming. I know what's coming.
So take it away.
So yeah, my day one launch Dreamcast, I think it was after a good probably 18 months, probably not even. Pretty much the lifespan of the Dreamcast. Yeah, shit, it was. Oh, that's depressing. Started to develop a reset issue where it would just kind of shut off, it would restart, it would take me back to the boot screen. So I just thought, okay, what's this all about? Kept doing it. I think this is the 90s, 1990, no, probably 2000, late 2000 maybe. And I was just, I wasn't of the mind where I was like, I wasn't, in my mid-20s with that kind of initiative. I wasn't going to jump on YouTube and look at how to fix solution because, hey, those things did not exist. No. And I just thought, oh, okay, this thing's kaput. That's a shame. Oh, well, PS2's coming out soon anyway. So I put it in the wheelie bin. And I still remember watching it from the living room window as they took the bin away and tipped it into the back of the truck.
Wow.
And yeah, I crushed my my day one Dreamcast. And then in 2012 it was, my lovely wife bought me another Dreamcast for Christmas with, I think it was Shenmue, Steve's favourite game, Crazy Taxi, Sonic Adventure, a few other games I can't remember. And later that morning, that very console started to develop the same issue. I was like, oh no. Fuck? So, of course, this is now 2012. I'm, a bit older, a bit wiser, got solutions available to me. Looked it up, knew what to do. All I had to do, basically, was just unscrew the bottom, take the top cover off the console, and there's a little tiny screw next to the disc, the laser, like the lens. Just had to tighten it ever so slightly, like a single quarter turn with a little screwdriver. Put the thing back on. Oh. It's still working to this very day.
Amazing. Amazing.
I mean, admittedly, it doesn't have a disc drive in it anymore. It's now got 400 gig storage with every game released. But until I did the mod, it was working.
If you'd known that all that time, you could have also had a yellow Dreamcast.
Yes.
I would. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would, yeah. I know.
Those things are priceless.
Crazy.
It's one of those consoles. I don't know why the yellowing issue is just like, ugh. The console I've got now, the day I got it, is absolutely immaculate. It is white as white. It's lovely.
It's just that white material that I don't know what it is, but it's like the same with the Super Nintendo, isn't it? Like it's got that kind of like white plastic casing and.
Well, it's cheap 80s, 90s plastic, wasn't it? It was cheap plastic stock.
Very susceptible to that sunlight and.
At what point did you realise, Rich, that you'd made an error? Was it as you were watching the truck tip it into the back, or was it sometime later?
I don't think I was too bothered. I think probably as much as I will wax lyrical and romanticise the Dreamcast now, and even talk about how I viewed it then, I probably was a bit more like, and the next thing's coming out. Obviously, years later...
Yeah, fair enough.
I think if I had half of the mind I have now back then, I would have probably been crying, grabbing onto the man from Biffa. I was like, please don't take it. It's like, I need it back. But on one hand, I could be like, oh shit, if only I knew I could still have my day one console. But I can guarantee that would have been traded in long ago. I would have traded in for the PS2.
Yeah, true.
I can pretend that I wouldn't have, but I would have. So, yeah. I was always destined to have another Dreamcast. It would never have been the original. So, still... Yeah, I was very happy on that Christmas morning, but I was very pissed off at the same time. 17-year-old me was like, fuck. So that's my story.
All right, Steve, come on, tell us your origin story with the Dreamcast.
I mean, you know what? I don't... I don't have anything nearly as interesting or as well told as Rich is, I'm afraid. But I'll try and follow him anyway. So I did not own a Dreamcast at launch. I didn't own a Dreamcast for a long time. Because I grew up a bit poor. I had to sort of make do with what I had, right? So the chances of me getting a Dreamcast, the chances of me getting a Dreamcast were infinitesimally small. So I had to go around friends' houses to play fancy new consoles, and I did that a lot with the Dreamcast. I was also a Sega kid. I had a Mega Drive growing up, and I absolutely fucking loved that thing. I did eventually get a PlayStation, but like Rich, I was always a Sega kid. The reason I got a PlayStation over a Saturn was because PlayStations were cheaper, were they not?
They were, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were.
There was that famous thing at E3, wasn't it? Or CES, whenever it was, where they announced the price of the Saturn, and then PlayStation came out and then just slashed £100 off the PlayStation.
Yeah, you
right.
undercut the competitors, and
Right
you end up making more money. And
on the stage of a trade show. It's like,
yeah,
that 499, was it 449 for the Saturn, wasn't it?
I can't remember now. Wasn't it 399 or something? Then Sony came out and went, didn't they just go 299? And then
they did, yeah. They made the decision real fast. That's correct.
Yeah, but let's face it, Sony could afford to lose a dime or two, couldn't they? You know what I mean?
Well, they had quite a few million from their tellies and Walkmans and such, I guess. But there's still a classic way of just doing it. Just come out.
And when they announced Saturn as well, and they announced basically, it's out now, when they announced it.
Oh yeah,
didn't tell any of the retail partners. So like, hey, guess what? This thing's out.
They did a stealth release.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was a
retailers.
thing. Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing.
They announced it and they released it.
And they're like, no. It's like,
and it's like, but there's like a lot of admin to do. Like, what are you guys doing?
Hence why people were burned by Sega.
Yes, that is one of the reasons why people do not trust Sega. I always secretly wanted a Saturn, although thinking back, that was a stupid thing to secretly want. The PlayStation was much better. So from my perspective, the Dreamcast was Sega sort of coming back and saying, hey, we're here and we can do this too, and we can do it better than the PlayStation, and our games look fucking rad as hell, and we have that new Resident Evil hotness, and all of our games look like arcade games, which was fucking incredible. Like, these are not home ports of arcade games. These are the arcade games. They look and feel exactly like they do in the arcade, but you're playing it on your own TV, and that was just incredible. So yeah, I was incredibly excited to play one. That's basically my origin story, to be honest. I don't. There's a lot of pulling all-nighters, playing Dead or Alive and Soul Calibur. Both of those games, Soul Calibur and Dead or Alive, are still just interminably playable. Like once I start playing them, it is very hard to stop. They're just so fluid and fun and fast. So yeah, lost a lot of sleep when the Dreamcast came out. But yeah,
Soul Calibur's definitely my game. Rich will testify.
Literally playing that on my Steam Deck last night. So the Dreamcast version, I was like, so good.
I should get that on my Steam Deck. Oh my god,
so good.
But yeah, I think it was also the thing that was attractive about it as well was the presentation of those games. Everything was so bright and colourful. They call it like blue sky design philosophy, right? Yeah. Everything felt like summer. Like all the games felt like it was summer. If that makes sense.
No, definitely. I get that.
It just gives your soul a boost when you play Crazy Taxi and everything is just bright and colourful and summery, and the whole Dreamcast just felt like that. The Dreamcast felt like a breath of fresh air in summer. It was great.
Awesome. I'll touch on my origin story of the Dreamcast then, and just like yourselves, I kind of grew up with Sega, as we all know. Started with the Master System and worked my way through. I picked the Saturn over the PlayStation. Still have no regrets.
You hipster.
So when it came to the Dreamcast, I was obviously in day one, but I never really went and pre-ordered it or anything. I was early 20s now, I think. I was earning a wage. I was working in London.
Jesus.
And I think it was one day after work, and I was in Liverpool Street Station, and they used to have a video game shop or like an entertainment shop, sold DVDs and CDs and or VHSs at the time. So I popped up there before my train was due to depart, and they had the Dreamcasts in stock then. And I remember, and I was like, £200. And I think it was only $199. Wasn't it 200 at the time?
Yeah, it was $199 on release. Very good price bracket.
Yeah, really good for such a powerful machine and everything, all the other stuff. And so, of course, it's right here. Of course, I'm going to pick one up. And I took it home, and the rest is history. Really, I can't. There's nothing else I could, from what Rich has said about the machine and my experiences of playing it at the time of release. And all the internet stuff and the VMUs, and it's just a very memorable time for all this brand new experiences that the Dreamcast gave me. I think I also mentioned that I did play PC games as well. I kind of was a little bit used to what you could do on a PC with PC games, and I think we were quite lucky where we'd had the internet already available to me. So I was kind of used to that kind of stuff a little bit more, I guess. So it wasn't so much of a shock to the system, but it was still a marvel to do that on a console. We'd never really been used to doing that on a console. It was unheard of. So, and my, one of the biggest memories I hold of the Dreamcast is registering for, was it the Dream Key or the Dream Arena? I can't quite remember.
Dream Key was the disc, the browser, and then Dream Arena was like the hub, the ecosystem you were in.
Which one was it? And you got a free copy of Choo Choo Rocket? Choo
Choo Rocket just got released. They just sent, if you bought a console and you did a registration card, remember registration cards? They were great. They just sent a copy of Choo Choo Rocket out to every owner.
I couldn't remember if it was that, or whether you registered it for one of their services. I couldn't remember which one it was.
Just registered with the cards and then that was it.
Yeah, and just hearing crazy that we were going to get this free copy of a game, and I was like, what? That's unheard of. You never, I guess the last time that had happened was getting the Christmas version of Nights into Dreams on the Sega magazine, but to get a full-blown proper game sent to you for free, it was crazy. It was unheard of. It was amazing. But everything else you guys have touched upon, the arcade perfect ports of their famous games, and it's just a beautiful, amazing machine. I wish more people took a punt on.
Another thing as well, I think guys talking about with PC gaming as well. I think another good thing about the Dreamcast, it not just the home and the arcade, but it definitely bridged the gap somewhat between the home and PC gaming as well, the console market and PC gaming, because of the whole Windows CE integration. Like some of the games that came out, it didn't come out in other formats. Some didn't get released necessarily, but things like was it Omicron, Nomad Soul? I know Black and White was going to come out on it, but then didn't. Half-Life.
They built a Half-Life for it, yeah,
which I have. Incomplete, but I have it. It's very good, if a bit buggy. Can
you play that Half-Life port from start to end?
I don't think it's the full game, no.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but it's pretty solid.
Nice.
It is. There was a number of PC games that did come out. I'm trying to remember other ones now. I could go on all day. Of course, Quake and Unreal as well. Yeah, there was a number, and I think the Windows CE integration that must have helped somewhat with the whole process of porting them. It wouldn't have been quite as successful with the PlayStation, and God forbid the N64 with its muddy palette and fog. But yeah, I think the Dreamcast did an admirable job of PC ports as much as it did arcade ones. Yeah,
not quite enough of them though.
No, Hidden and Dangerous, that was good.
But it did feel like the Dreamcast was capable of doing that. I mean, it was also a matter of just horsepower as well at the time.
True.
Because if you were playing on your PlayStation, if you compared it to PC gaming, PlayStation games looked like dog shit.
They did.
And the Dreamcast was the first time that you felt like, okay, consoles are capable of the kinds of fluidity. It was really the fluidity that floored me the most about the Dreamcast, because that was the kind of thing that you only saw on PC games up to that point. I don't know what frame rate things were running at, because I didn't have that kind of brain at the time, but they felt fast and fluid, and it's what I would call now like a solid 60 FPS on so many of the games on there.
Yeah. I mean, if you get the Japanese version of Sega Rally 2, it runs at a solid 60 frames. I don't know how, but it does. It's amazing. Night and day compared to the US and European versions. That's the one I've got on my GDMU. It's just like shit off a shovel, seriously. It's so good. So...
Eloquent. I just want to pick up on an element of your origin story there, Jason, because it should be noted, just to follow this thread that we're sort of weaving through this conversation, it was cheap at launch, and Sega were selling it at a massive loss, which is not an unusual business practice in the hardware industry, but it should be noted that Sega had already sold hardware at a loss several times before this, and they were in massive financial trouble, and the Dreamcast was supposed to be, their lifeline, and so it turned out selling the Dreamcast that cheaply at launch was probably a mistake, and that's probably another reason that we can pin on the board of why the Dreamcast sadly did not succeed.
Obviously, we want to look at some of all the positives of the Dreamcast, and obviously we've talked about some of its features that were ahead of its time with the internet connectivity and the 128-bit processing power of the machine to bring these arcade-perfect ports to the home. But of course, there was one other thing that a lot of people remember about the Dreamcast, and that is its memory card, or VMU, and the fact of being able to take this out and play games on it outside of the machine. I mean, that was unheard of, wasn't it? Like that what a crazy innovative idea, which they managed to get working affordably. Yeah, and go on, Rich.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah, one of the things still blows my mind now, and this was like on a launch title, was the Chow in a Sonic Adventure, where you could just basically take them out of the game, raise them. Basically, it'd just be a virtual pet on your VMU. Just pop it out of your controller, take it to school, raise it, put it back into the game, and it's where it was where you left off. It's just stupid stuff, but so good. Even like, I think some of the... Was it one of the... NFL 2K games, like the American football, you can do your game strategies, your calls, your formations on the VMU. You select your plays. So basically, if you're playing against someone on the couch next to you, they can't see what the players you're selecting, because you're doing it on a little screen on your controller instead of a menu in the game on the TV. Just stuff like that. Crazy. So good.
Just cool where you were playing a game, say like Crazy Taxi, but then you look down at your controller and you saw the little screen through the hole, and it just had like the Crazy Taxi logo on it.
Yeah.
And it was just a nice little touch that just made it a little bit more unique.
Yeah.
The heartbeat sensor on Resident Evil as well was really cool, because you could look down and see what your health was without having to go into a menu screen.
So good.
Good shit.
So good.
It was good.
Even like one of the weirdest ones was Virtua Tennis as well. Like, you've actually got like a stickman representation of the game that you're playing. Like, it will track where your characters are moving on screen. And it'll have two stickmen playing the same game on the VMU. It's just weird. Unnecessary, but really, really cool.
I think that sort of sums up the VMU generally. Unnecessary. There was nothing on there that was really vital. They didn't do anything with it, that was probably vital. But who cares? Because it was fucking cool, is what it was.
And I again, something else that Sega just did first, and I reckon Nintendo nicked that idea off them for their Wii U. I know maybe they got the idea from the 3DS more so, but I mean, like, having that second screen to have, say, on like the Wind Waker, and you had all the inventory on the second screen and the map or whatever and stuff like that. I always just thought, they've just gone and nicked that idea from the Dreamcast. But and I will say one more other thing about the VMU is that it was a lot easier to change its battery than it was for the consoles.
Oh god, yeah. Don't even start with the consoles. CMOS battery, it fucking sucks. So.
Yes, it does. So I still haven't got round to modding mine for that yet, and my CMOS battery died ages ago, so I have to keep changing them.
Mine is done now, thankfully, so now I can replace it whenever I want. So
it still frustrates me, and it's like, why? Yeah, again, something else maybe we could talk about in the future. But like, why did you make this decision, Sega? Like you
soldered it to the board.
Yeah, I mean, like you got it spot on for the Saturn. You took the cover off of the back, and it was sitting right there, and you just had to unclip it like you would a normal CMOS battery.
So crazy.
And put in the new one. But no, when it comes to the Dreamcast, like I think I would always herald this as its biggest mistake. Right, not. Don't worry about the DVD drive or anything like that. Right, this was the biggest mistake: was fucking soldering that CMOS holder to the fucking motherboard.
Yeah,
because it's such a pain, and not even like. And if you are going to solder the CMOS holder or thing to the motherboard, at least make it easy for you to unclip the battery out of it and put a new one in.
they like covered it in this like blue waxy stuff, didn't they? Just like encased it to the holder, didn't they? So it's just one.
So how do you get that thing out? Because I never had to do this. So like, how do you go about getting that done?
You have to remove the solder, basically, clip it, remove it from the board, put a replacement holder in, like a custom-made holder, solder it to the board, and then you just pop the battery in. Mm-hmm. So you've got basically the holder's now soldered in, but you can just pull the battery out, pop a new one in.
I see. Okay.
Not happy.
I can tell, Jason. Yeah. Become really animated on this issue.
I know, right? It's very unfair. I feel very passionate about it, Steve.
You do.
Okay, and while we're in this area, why don't we have a quick discussion about the controller itself? I mean, some people really hate it, some people really love it, some people obviously in between, whatever. But I mean, I never had a problem back in the day with it. I thought it was a really cool controller. I thought it was quite comfortable. Playing with it now, sometimes I feel a little bit like it. They could have made better decisions with it, like with some of the games, like the PC ports or whatever you were talking about earlier, Steve, and like Soldier of Fortune and things like that, where you basically had to use the buttons as like view tank controls, wasn't it, kind of thing?
Yeah.
So you moved up and down with the stick, and then you had strafe or whatever or you had to turn the actual character with the buttons. I can't remember which way it was around now, but apart from that, I think all it was missing was a second stick, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, the controller is a product of its time. Like it's a bad controller, but it's unfair to call it a bad controller because when they made it, they did not know what games were going to be. And so it's only a bad controller in retrospect. Like at the time, it was fine. The cable being at the bottom was a weird choice. A weird choice that they knew they had made since they added the little clip thing at the back where you could clip the wire up. It's like, well, why don't you just put the wire somewhere else? I don't know. I will say the VMU slotting into the controller was satisfying as hell. Yeah. I very much enjoyed putting a VMU into a controller. I might go as far as to call it somewhat erotic.
Well, I mean, yeah, and then of course they had the wisdom to put two ports in the back. So you could have, like with the N64, for example, when you want the rumble pack, memory card out, rumble pack in, rumble pack out, memory card in, keep swapping them around and stuff. You didn't have to do that with Dreamcast. You could have a rumble pack and a memory card in there, and you're ready to go.
You wait a fucking time, like for the time you're done. It was
But I mean, I really like the aesthetics of it and the coloured buttons, and I didn't, I quite like the shoulder buttons as well and everything else. I thought in general, I quite liked the controller. I thought it was quite cool.
The trigger had a tendency to squeak, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. God, don't even. Yeah. I still think it's a comfortable controller. I still think it's comfortable, but I never like the D-pad on it. It feels too, high, and, the angle on it. It feels feels sharp.
It's weird, too, because there's so much, it's quite a big controller as well. There's so much room on it. Its main issue is the lack of buttons. But there's fuckloads of space on it, so it's like I don't know why they wouldn't have, future-proofed it a bit better, adding some more buttons to that thing. I don't know. Hindsight, though, innit?
Yeah, I know why they did it, but people complain about it. I don't think it's as much of an issue as what people make out. But the cable at the bottom of the controller instead of the top, I'm like, whatever, it's fine. It's weird, but it's...
Yeah, I think it's because they would rather have the VMU slot at the top, and that's why they did that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a little clip. You just clip it underneath. That's it. Boom. It's almost like the cable's coming out the top. Sega took it into account, and so people always moan about that. I don't know why. So
yeah. Again, though, listeners, if you've not had the pleasure of inserting a VMU into a Dreamcast controller, please seek out that experience at your earliest opportunity.
Sega obviously missing a trick here, and they need to market a little toy where you can just do that.
That Retro
I'd buy
Fighters
it.
controller I got well tight, I tell you. When I tried the VMU and that, it was tight like prom night. It was bad.
Oh dear.
We talked, briefly on the failures of the Dreamcast. Why it may not have succeeded the way Sega wished it had. But I mean, like, you can tell that they really did try their hardest to get this to as many people as possible and to get them excited and go and buy one. And obviously, one of the biggest ways you can do that is through its advertising and marketing. And they did such a cool job of that.
Yes.
Like, if anyone hasn't listened to it, then you should go and seek out the Dreamcast Junkyard Dream Pod, where they had the Europe marketing director of Sega, Giles Thomas, who went into the whole, at the time, and the ideas on the advertising and all that kind of stuff. Very interesting listen, and you should go and seek that out. But, Sega have had kind of a reputation of doing kind of like marketing that's kind of like rough and ready, if that's the right way of saying it, in your face kind of stuff. But how do you think they handled the advertising for the Dreamcast?
Classy.
Yes.
Classier than the kind of video game marketing you had up to that point, which is why it stood out, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was different. I mean, at this time, Sony had already kind of changed the rules a bit, and obviously their marketing was a bit more sophisticated, a bit more mature, geared towards, the nightclub audience and, the 18 to 30 somethings. But yeah, there was something I really liked what Sega did with this, how it felt. It wasn't obviously in your face, but it also wasn't trying to be provocative or anything like that. It was very chilled. It kind of goes back to what Steve said about the whole Blue Sky, Blue Sky design. It was chilled and laid back. It was very kind of zen, very lifestyle based. I mean, the two ads obviously spring to mind are the barber one and the boy one, where they you've got the first commercials where they've got like a sort of a barber for the French Foreign Legion, two barbers going head to head trying to shave heads in the quickest time possible, and then there's the other one where kids are throwing skipping stones at a buoy in the sea and they're competing, and the whole message is just we all play games, let's play games together.
Up to 6 billion players.
Yeah, Rod Stock had something to say about that. So, but it was just so nice and different. I mean, they used Robbie Williams as well for the music and the ads. Just felt relaxed, and it made you feel excited, but it wasn't like slamming your head against the wall saying, "Hey, you're going to buy me, you're going to buy me." It was just like, yeah, you know what? I want this. It sounds nice.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the barber commercial in the cinema when I went to see Phantom Menace, and I shit myself. I was so excited when that commercial came on, because I didn't know at first. It was the first time I saw it, and it was on the big screen. So I was like, "Oh, what's this?"
Was that the highlight of that particular cinema trip? Was it?
Yeah. It's like, I've already got these pre-orders. Now I'm really hyped. So it already done its job. It didn't even need to be sold to me. So it just added to my hype.
It shows you how much. I guess, again, maybe this is, why Sega found themselves in the financial situation they did. But, I mean, they spent all this money on advertising, but then they spent a lot of money on sponsoring sports teams.
Yes.
I kind of always remember watching the football at that time and seeing the Arsenal kit with the Dreamcast logo on. I mean, it was a great idea. You're kind of marketing to these kind of people at the time. That was what, at the time, that's what marketing people probably thought were video game players, were men of this age, and sponsoring sports teams were probably an amazing idea. And just to have the Dreamcast logo and not the Sega on it at all. And I don't know whether that was the good idea or not, to be honest.
Well, they did, didn't they do, like, for the away kits, they had Sega, and the home kits, they had Dreamcast, didn't they? So
oh, yeah, maybe
there was
they
a
did,
bit of synergy.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so I forget the teams. It was Arsenal, wasn't it? Like, was it like Fiorentina and some other team, football team? I don't know football, so
was it Juventus? Maybe
some French team. I don't know. That's the magic of it as well, though, isn't it? Even now, like, you might get like Thierry Henry on like Match of the Day in the studio.
Exactly.
In punditry, they'll talk about some game he was playing back in the day. Flash an image of him up on the screen in the studio. Boom! There's the Dreamcast logo in 2023. It's like, yay! It's just like, it lives on.
think we pretty much cover everything we want to, apart from our top 3 Dreamcast games. So
Yeah, I'm
obviously,
excited for Chris's. So.
I'll just make one up.
What you guys said.
yeah.
Yeah, what you said.
I'd love it if he turned around and went, well, number 3 Seaman, number 2 Sega Gaga,
Seaman, yes, Seaman.
Sega Gaga, and
Oh, God, Jesus Christ.
I love it. I would love it.
Spirit Speed 937.
Oh yeah, Spirit Speed, absolutely. So obviously, going to go around each of us. Do we want to do one each and lead up to our first, or do we just want to do all of ours in one hit?
I think doing one each sounds good. We are more likely to run into overlaps in that situation. But hey, I think we should do it one each.
All right, well, let's start with you then, Steve, and reveal your number 3.
Okay,
Top
my number
Dreamcast game.
3 is Headhunter,
Nice.
which I absolutely loved. I really want. I'm in two minds as to whether or not I should go back and play this game again, because I'm worried that it might not hold up at all. But
It holds
I
up,
really,
Steve. It holds up. Trust
Really?
me, I played it a year ago and it holds
all
up.
right, good. Okay, good. But yeah, fucking incredible soundtrack first and foremost, and a really good presentation that sort of felt like a Diet Paul Verhoeven movie, where it's near future. Things are kind of fucked up, but you can recognize what's going on. And it had some really great live action video newscasts like you got in RoboCop. And between missions, you had to ride a motorcycle to get to the next mission with incredible music. And it just made it feel like a really cohesive, connected world as you drove the motorcycle from one mission to the next before getting off and shooting guys in the face. It was real good fun.
I love Headhunter. Such a great game.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's one of the Dreamcast games that is screaming out for a reboot.
100%.
Someone needs to remake this. Remaster.
That'll be-
Just a remake. I don't think it needs a remaster.
Paul Verhoeven needs to remake it. He needs to get into game production and he needs to do it.
Because, yeah, that game would sell buckets. The whole idea of it, the motorcycle sections, it would be amazing. This is one you played as well, Rich.
Oh yeah. I initially played it for the first time through the GDMU, but loved what I played. So I haven't played all the way through, but yeah, really, really liked it. Always knew it was held in high regard, but it passed me by back in the day. Yeah, very good stuff though. Very good stuff.
Well, Rich, let us know what your number 3 is, please.
Cool. Yeah, my number 3 is actually Seaman. So,
How is it? Wow.
so which is
Amazing.
just a fucking trip of a game. Again, like Headhunter, never played this back in the day because it never got released in Europe. So basically, Seaman, you could say it's kind of like a virtual pet kind of game, but that does it a massive disservice.
I just love this whole origin of this game.
Don't even.
I'm not sure it's possible for you to really give us a description of this game that really explains what it is in such a short space of time.
I try my best. So basically, where we talked about the VMU and the vibration pack, like this actually required a peripheral to play in the Dreamcast microphone, which I own, and it's a fantastic bit of kit. And essentially, you start the game by you prepare like a fish tank, the lighting, the water temperature, bits and pieces. You have to get it ready, and then you introduce a little creature called a Seaman into it. It starts off kind of like a tadpole kind of form, grows over time. You have to talk to it. You can tap on the glass, and you actually talk to it through the microphone, and it soon develops into a fish with the face of a Japanese man. And the whole game's narrated by Leonard Nimoy. So there you go, Chris. You haven't been left out, so that's good.
I had no idea that was even a thing.
Leonard Nimoy did this game. And yeah, he's basically a really irritable, grumpy fish, and he will sometimes tell jokes, very, very sometimes kind of a bit politically incorrect jokes. Other times he'll just, but I don't want to talk to you right now. He'll just ignore you. You have to leave him. The whole game runs on the Dreamcast's internal clock as well. So if you turn off the game and go back to it multiple times in the day, when you first boot it up, Leonard Nimoy will even make like a quip about, you're obsessed. You need to do something else. Stop playing this game. He'll actually put you down. basically. So you're getting told off by Spock. So it's just like, I don't know what's going on when I play this game. It's fucked. You have to breed them as well, but you breed them with the siblings. So Seaman has sex with his brothers and sisters. They multiply. It's fucked. I don't know what else to say. Like you could do a podcast about this. It's horrific.
Every time I hear you explain this game, Rich, I feel like I understand it less than I did before you started.
Yeah,
And it's not that you're doing a bad job. It sounds
I am doing a bad
fucking
job.
inscrutable. It sounds like the most bizarre, inscrutable trip What?
Just wait till you get to Seaman 2 on the PlayStation 2. You actually have a seagull with the face of a Japanese man.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know what else to say about this. It's so weird. Like, it's just so weird. But it stands out to me because of that. Like, we live in an age now where we've got very out there games. You've got certain companies willing to take a risk. Like, you're kind of like, this is the kind of game now I expect like Devolver Digital to put out.
Yes, Seaman would be an indie game now. The fact that this came out on the Sega Dreamcast is bonkers.
Yeah,
But I kind of it harks to an attractive part of the Dreamcast and these batshit crazy games that they released. Like I mentioned a bit earlier about Sega Gaga, the whole premise of that, of like, you know, you're roaming Sega, aren't you? And you're what are they doing in Sega Gaga? They're kind of taking the mick out of themselves in some ways, aren't they?
yeah. You get put in charge of Sega,
Yeah.
who is basically on its last legs because of a massive company called Dogma, which is basically Sony, who has like a massive share of the market, and you have to basically run development teams to make games that people actually want to play. And along the way, you meet characters from Sega lineage, and you also have to battle Sega's multiple add-ons for the Mega Drive as well at one point.
And that's what a crazy idea that is. Especially
It's
that
very
at that point in
self-aware,
time.
isn't it? Yeah.
Crazy amounts. Yeah, seriously.
And
Did
even
this
like
game
the Tokyo bus guide as well game, wasn't it?
Tokyo Bus Simulator is amazing. Yeah, Tokyo Bus Guide. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
You know,
That's
These games, did they ever get an English translation, like officially?
There is still an ongoing project for Sega Gaga. I don't think it's ever going to come out. I don't know what's going on with it. I've got it, but only got the Japanese one.
Yeah.
And you can't tell shit from shit playing in Japanese because there's so much
'cause
dialogue in that game.
I knew several people back in the day that thought they were going to learn Japanese specifically to play those games.
But yeah, no,
That's what I loved about it. I think Sega just didn't give a fuck at this point.
yeah.
They were like, well, if we're going to go out, let's go out with a bang. Let's just make some really weird shit.
But yeah, Seaman, great game, and one I'm still yet to experience. I still haven't got my finger up my ass and got a microphone for the Dreamcast yet. So
Did I put it on your SD card? Is it on there?
I do believe it's on there. Yeah,
Sick.
yeah, it's there. I've got the game, but I
Amazing.
just need to get the microphone for it. Okay, well, my number 3 top Dreamcast game is Metropolis Street Racer.
Ooh, yeah.
Love this game so much, and it was one of the first games I think I bought. Was it a launch game?
No.
No, I can't remember.
Oh, maybe
to
it
be
was. Oh, God, I'm going to burn for this. It might be, actually. It might have been.
Whatever.
Shit. Yeah,
Whatever.
I think it was.
Just amazing game. Like the aesthetics, the graphics, so realistic. The whole idea of the fact that you're racing around real life cities, and they'd actually gone out and mapped the areas that you were going to race around, so it was all kind of like specifically, point on, which was kind of cool at the time because, as I said, I was working in London and I recognised some of the parts of the London tracks, and that just kind of blew my mind a little bit, that I recognised parts of the game in game. It was just crazy. But the fact that you had licensed cars as well, and the whole kudos system, and the drifting, earning kudos for drifting around corners and all that kind of stuff to keep you going and keep you wanting to play more. And the music, just amazing soundtrack. Like I never really heard anything like it from a video game at the time. We were on the cusp of getting Grand Theft Auto 3 on the PS2, which obviously kind of blew game soundtracks out of the water. Mm-hmm. But this one came first, and I think maybe, I don't know, Rockstar may have stolen some ideas from this game because like they went all out. Proper songs for this, and like completely like different genres of music depending on where you're racing, and it's just an amazing game. And
It's the one band and the one band that's in the soundtrack. It's like the anti Oasis. It's like Oasis but not Oasis.
yeah.
It's I love the way they take liberties, and they couldn't get licensed stuff, so they just made some really cool original stuff, really decent.
Yeah, but even if you listen to the soundtrack on Spotify now, you know, like there's still so many great tracks from that.
It's on there,
from that
jeez.
game. Yeah, there are some on there. Yeah, Spotify or was it YouTube? I listen to them. One of the two. They're on the internet to be listened to somewhere. So, but yeah, just happy memories of just getting used to this control system. I do remember it did take a little time just to kind of get used to the mechanics of the game, but once it all clicked, it was great fun just to burn around these real life cities and building up your kudos and stuff. Is this one, any of you guys got experience in the game?
So, I mean, I've not, and I've never been a racing game guy, really, but I did watch this game get played quite a lot, and I concur with all of the aesthetic comments that you made. It looked cool as hell, and it sounded really cool, and I remember thinking that earning kudos for doing stuff within the race was a super rad idea.
Yourself, Rich?
Yeah, I love this game, and I think the whole kudos system. It's something now, even now. It's something that's a mainstay in a lot of racing games now. Like you're looking at things like even with like the Forza series, Burnout, just kind of stuff you do if you drift, if you have near misses. Mm-hmm. Adding to your like points total for how you drive, not just how fast you drive. It started with MSR, it went on to like Project Gotham, and then just went on from there.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very influential game.
Yeah, yeah. Racing games wouldn't be what they are now, would they?
Yeah.
Nope.
And also like with the real world like city stuff. Another thing as well, what I loved about that is that it used the internal clock.
Yes,
so,
the day-night cycles, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you're like driving around London at 6:07 p.m. in your house, you're driving around London at 6:07 p.m. on track. So it's dark out. It's dark out. It's just like that's some seriously cool shit. Like,
I feel like more games should do that, because that is some magical way of connecting you to the game. The only other game I've played that I've had that feeling is World of Warcraft, which is a wildly different game. I love the idea of connecting the internal clock to the real time of day in real life. It's cool.
That's a really cool idea, synchronizing the real world clock to that. I'd never even heard of that being a thing.
Although it would be quite frustrating if like there was a certain mechanic that only happened at night, but you can only play during the day.
I guess so, yeah. The other thing that is notable about this game for me is that it taught me what the word kudos was. And whenever I use the word kudos in my day-to-day life, I always think of this game, despite not being a racing game guy.
I do too.
That's amazing. Shit. I love it. Brilliant.
You said games aren't educational, I mean.
No, my number 2 is Power Stone 2.
Ooh, not Power Stone.
Not Power Stone.
That's
so
surprising.
it's close. To be honest, like if I could, I would cheat and put them both here. Right? Can I do that? Can I cheat and put them both here?
Yeah, fuck it, why not?
So Power Stone, I think I love Power Stone more than 2, but I think I put 2 on here because I think just as a multiplayer experience, it is so incredibly fun, and I think in that sense it has more value overall than the first one did. But I loved Power Stone because it is a beat 'em up. It's a fighting game, and I'm shit at those, but Power Stone is really, really fun, even if you're shit at it. It's like isometric view fighting in this arena that is very interactable and becomes part of the fight. And it's about 2 people fighting over collecting the titular Power Stones in order to reach a power level, at which point you can just blast your opponent to death with your requisite special ability, depending on who you chose. What I always think of when I think of the moment that I fell in love with this game was when my friend picked up a minigun from the corner of the room, and you're in this like Chinese tea shop, and he just starts mowing down, like horizontally shooting the minigun towards me in this tea shop, and I ran away from his bullets and rolled over a table to go behind cover, and I was just like, man, I fucking love this game. It's fantastic, and it's just bonkers. It's absolute bonkers mayhem, and Power Stone 2 is that, but with 4 players, and everything turned up to 11, evolving levels, like you fight on a flying fortress thing that eventually crashes into the ground and everybody just keeps fighting while that's all going on. It's nuts, and I love it, and it is a neglected IP, and it should come back, and I'm amazed that it hasn't come back. I feel like we've gone through this period of gaming where couch multiplayer games became a real big thing, especially with the Switch. The fact that Power Stone hasn't come back boggles my mind. Someone needs to do it. But yeah,
even just as a port.
Exactly, right? It's crazy.
You don't have to remake it or remaster it or anything. Just port it over. I mean, they've done that with other Dreamcast games. You've got other Dreamcast games on the Switch that you can play right now. That's just I know they've made some changes to the actual game, but it still looks like the game that it was on the Dreamcast.
Who owns Power Stone? Do we know?
Capcom, isn't it?
Yeah. What are they doing?
More Street Fighter, man.
I guess so.
All about the Street Fighter. Yeah, no.
And you can it allows you to turn the tables as well. Like the push and pull in that game is like someone could be doing really, really well and absolutely just kicking your ass, but then you are able to turn it around before they win, and you can get all the Power Stones back off them, and you can collect them, and you don't have to be a fighting game guy to be able to do that in this game, and that's what's so great about it.
Basically like the Mario Kart of fighting games, really. So
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah.
One of your favourite Switch?
yes and well. More probably no. I'm a bit of an edgelord when it comes to Power Stone. Like I'm trying to piss people off, but it's never really done it for me. I don't know why I never really gave much of a crap, but yeah, it passed me by. I know it was a launch title. I never really played it until, again, the GDMU, and I was like, it's fine, but I'd still rather play a more traditional fighting game like a Soul Calibur or Dead or Alive. And I'm not even a fighting game person either, so I don't know what it was. I think I'd probably appreciate it a bit more now because recently I've been playing a game called Gigabash on Steam, which is basically Power Stone but with kaiju, and it's terrific. It's terrific, and they've actually got the Godzilla license as well now, which doesn't hurt.
Amazing.
So,
nice.
And it even works the same as well. You get the floating power up. You have to beat the shit out of it. You get supercharged. You just basically win the fight with a massive attack. It is Power. You throw scenery at each other.
That's a multiplayer game, presumably.
Yep, 4-player kaiju, so you can do that. You just stomp over cities. It's fantastic.
Nice.
Get it. You'll love it. It's the nearest thing you've got to a new Power Stone. But with Godzilla in it.
I should play that.
Yeah, Gigabash. It's fantastic. But yeah, I think that's probably putting Power Stone in better standing for me now. I get the appeal through a newer game, and maybe it would have been better if I had more people to play with. I wasn't really much of a social gamer when I had the Dreamcast. It was very much me and my controller and no one else. It might have been better if I had some friends to play with. But
You had Seaman.
I had Seaman, yeah. So
you weren't alone.
I kind of wish we played this now when I was around yours, Jason, instead of Soul Calibur,
Yeah.
where I thrashed you. It would be
You thrashed me at Dead or Alive. I thrashed you at Soul Calibur. Thank you.
yeah, true.
I will take that because I have to take every win that I get when it comes to beat 'em ups. All right.
It's Soul Calibur. If we'd done Power Stone, it'd been a bit more,
Maybe. Yeah, we should have done
unpredictable.
that. Yeah.
So
Next time.
yeah, maybe next time.
Okay, Rich. Well, your number 2.
I'm going with a game that's actually a multi-format one, but it shone brightest on the Dreamcast, and that's Hydro Thunder.
Had to come sooner or later.
It had to come sooner or later.
Yeah.
So it's fucking brilliant. It's just a really nice, brash, loud, obnoxious midway arcade racing game with like futuristic powerboats. Really, really, really cool water physics, massive like stomach churning drop, and it's just bloody fun. Like there's only so much I can really discuss about it. It's not as deep as like Metropolis Street Racer. It's just powerboats, jumps, pick up boosts, and that's really it.
And checkpoints.
And checkpoints. Yeah, good idea on checkpoints.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you race across different places. There's like a jungle themed level. There's one. Keep in mind, this game came out right before 2000. There's a track in it called a New York Disaster. Fucking
God.
Which was taken out of the remake they did for the Hurricane, which was the semi-sequel they did for the Xbox. I wonder why.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just so much fun. Like, I still hear the music now and the announcer when I start the game up, Hydro Thunder, and it's just like the names of the boats are terrible. There's like what's it called? Misbehave and damn or torpedoes, and there's like, and even if you select like the fastest, like most difficult to control ships, like the announcer on the title screen would be like, "You're crazy," and there's like this fire appears, and there's like a siren going on and off. It's just, if this game was a person, you would want to punch them in the face, but they'd still be very likable, and I can't get enough of this game. I still play on the Dreamcast. I've got the Dreamcast version on the Steam Deck. I've got Hurricane on the Xbox. I love it, and I wish whoever's got the IP for this would make another game. It's so bloody good, and yeah, it's fantastic. I have so much fun, and also there's an unlockable. You can actually unlock the Titanic in it. Which is really tough. But it's actually a little one called the Tiny Tanic. So if you want to be really politically incorrect, just drive with the Titanic around New York disaster. It's just the worst, most offensive racing game ever made. It's it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And if anyone's not ever played it, yeah, what are you doing? It's just bloody great.
It's quite annoying that it can't run very well in the GDMU.
Ugh, don't even.
Because I really would like to play this game more, because at the time I think I was a bit snobbish with this game, and I was like, speedboats, racing around with speedboats, that sounds shit, and not bothering with that, thank you very much. I've got better things to be doing with my time, so... Terrible. Yeah, but we all make mistakes, right? So I'd like to rectify that mistake, but my GDMU won't let me do that.
You have to get a VGA monitor, I'm afraid. So
yeah,
bullshit.
So,
I hate it. I hate it so much. It doesn't run, like, just stupid VGA mode. I hate it.
It's what it is, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I mean, I remember playing a little bit on your Retroid Pocket 2.
Yes.
And from what I played on that, it was great fun. So,
yeah.
Steve, much experience with Hydro Thunder?
Nope.
Terrible.
I thought racing around in speedboats, that sounds a bit shit to me, so I won't bother with that. Thank you very much.
I'm the only one.
I've heard Rich discuss it a few times, and he makes it sound good. So I would be happy to play that at some point. But yes, I've got no experience with it.
Okay, let's move on to my number 2, and I don't know. I don't think it would be Rich's number 1. I think I know what Rich's number 1 may be. But my number 2 is Rez.
Ooh, yes. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
That's a very good pick.
Sound like you've completely forgotten the existence of this game, Steve.
I did. Do you know what I did? Well, it's not so much that I forgot the existence of it. I forgot that it was a Dreamcast game.
Yeah.
It was. And it was a bloody good one, too.
It was, yeah.
It was. The whole premise of Rez was just amazing. It just spoke to me on so many different levels. The whole kind of aesthetic of the basicness of it, just the lines of the stages and the character, and the whole computerization of it all just spoke to me in that way. But also the music as well. I mean, I was very much into that kind of music. That was my style at the time. And
big fish or fish cardboard box there.
Yeah, man. And I couldn't get enough of it, like the whole combination of this idea with this music, and then like, as you're playing, the music builds up, and the more the music goes with the enemies that you're destroying, and the more further you get into the stage, the more the music is kicking in, and like you're getting bigger beats, and like you're tapping away, foot's tapping away as you're playing along, and it was just a memorizing experience that I don't think I'll ever forget. And it's definitely one of my biggest like memories and experiences of playing a Dreamcast. Is through this game. Especially, I think if my number 1 game, if I hadn't played that when I had played it, I think maybe Rez might be my number 1. But for reasons I'll get into with my number 1, this had to come down to number 2, unfortunately. But yeah, just a brilliant game. And I know you've got a soft spot for this as well, haven't you, Rich?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Love it. Love this game. Again, this is actually one that passed me by back in the day, but played it on the GDMU, absolutely fell in love with it. Love it. And it almost kind of goes back to what we kind of said about, like with Seaman. This feels like a game that would be released today. It feels like an indie game.
Yeah,
a really
definitely.
Cool concept indie title. I mean, this came out around the time, I think, like when music games were becoming more popularized. You had like Music 2000 on the PlayStation. And this is essentially what it is. It is kind of like a rail shooter, but it is also a rhythm game in a sense. And it's bloody good one. It looks gorgeous still. It sounds amazing. The use of the vibration pack is like, to me, it's HD Rumble before there was HD Rumble. Like the vibration pack pulses to the beat, and like the bass lines, and it gets more aggressive as the beat gets stronger.
Very
and
aggressive.
Yeah, it was like my controller's having an absolute fit. It's like it rattles at the end when the thing you hear it. It's like it's so good though. Just pure euphoria. It is fantastic, and
Just gets you so buzzing, doesn't it?
yeah.
So
I
high
mean,
on everything.
I've never done drugs, but I feel like this is what that's like, I guess. I'm a goody two shoes, so Res is my drug. It's fantastic, and also kind of skipping ahead now, but hey, if you haven't played Res in VR, holy shit, like it's so good. It's so good. Like Res Infinite on the, I think it's like PSVR, and like I've got it on the Quest 2. It's just remarkable. It's the same game as the Dreamcast 1. It's so immersive though. It's fantastic.
I'd like to try that one day.
Oh, it's amazing.
Steve, is you a
Yeah.
Res boy?
Yeah, Res was great. I won't labour it because you've both spoken so eloquently on it. But yeah, it's not much to look at first. It definitely sacrifices that visual fidelity to provide something in like epic scale. Like some of the stuff that happens in that game is gigantic and massive and trippy as hell, and it all going along with the music was great. I loved the fact that it basically was a rail shooter meant that they could create a music track that would last for the length of the level, and it would change dynamically as you go on, depending on how well you were doing or how badly you were doing. And yeah, it just really connected you to the music, and it is a proper euphoric experience when you're doing really well. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Another one that needs to be on the Switch. Come on.
Absolutely, yeah.
It would be fantastic. Yeah.
Did which platform did they release the peripheral on that was just a vibrating like unit?
Remember?
Do you remember this?
I do remember the Dream member, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone at the time was like, am I shoving it out my ass or what? What's going on here? Like, what do I do with that?
I see a picture of this now.
Just sit on it for a good time.
Yeah.
I never knew of this. I never knew the existence of this.
It was called the Trance Vibrator, wasn't it?
That's right. It was called the Trance Vibrator. That's right, yeah. That's a real thing that they really
it
made.
comes
and
with like a
released.
little black sleeve as well. Like, it looks like it should be a sex toy. Like
It really does.
Wow.
It
sleeve
really
to put it
does. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. I never knew they released that.
in. Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to hurt up your ass though. It's
Yeah,
a
man.
bit wide.
Yeah. It's not got a flared bass on it as well, so it's quite dangerous to put up there.
I've actually just looked that up
Sorry.
as well. What the hell?
Oh, okay. Well, Steve, what a way to come around to you for your number one game.
Yeah, just move swiftly on from that. Number one, I mean, it's transcending history and the world. A tale of soul and swords, eternally retold.
Oh, come on, yes.
It's Choo Choo Rock. No, it's Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur.
Sublime.
I have a feeling that this is going to be on someone else's number one as well, so I won't
Not mine.
get into the.
Yeah.
So I won't get into the weeds on it, but yeah, I'm not a fighting game guy. But Soul Calibur somehow managed to make it so that button mashing is not just a viable strategy. It's well, yeah, it is a viable strategy, but it makes you feel like you're not button mashing. Like it draws you in with the mashing, but then you can understand intuitively how the game works, and then it feels like you're mashing like with a strategy, and you can totally win that way, and it doesn't feel cheap. It's just great. It's incredible. And what a spectacle as well, because it looked incredible and ran incredible. Yeah, good times. Good times with this game.
Yeah, I touched upon it earlier when me and Rich met up, and he came and stayed around for a couple of nights, and we had some time on the Dreamcast, and Soul Calibur was one of the games we booted up, and I'd forgotten that I could actually play the game to a respectable level through the button mashing, and it felt rewarding.
It's a really empowering game. It really is. It makes you feel
absolutely.
like a badass.
That's the word for it. Yeah, it is empowering, because you do start off just mashing, but like the game is so clever that is how you intuitively come to understand how it works. So the barrier to entry is extremely low. Yeah, it's just great.
Yeah, and it's. I think it is still my beat 'em up that I can play above anything else. I mean, I know we played Dead or Alive that evening, and I was crap at that. And I think when me and Rich went out to London one day and we found a bar that had a random PlayStation 2 hooked up to a TV.
That
and we
sounds
were
like
playing,
a most amazing night.
We're playing Tekken 5. What were we playing? Tekken 4, Tekken 5?
It was a
Tekken 4?
Tekken, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Tekken 4 or something. It was
Yeah,
so
no
good.
shit at that as well. So, so when it comes to Soul Calibur, it is my beat 'em up of all time for those reasons alone. Yeah. And plus it looks amazing, like you said.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful, so
looks so
smooth
good.
and
Yeah.
beautiful and detailed, and
The characters talk at the end of the round,
Yeah.
and their mouths move, and the way all of the way the animations blend together as well. Like you're doing 50 different things a second, but the animations just blend into each other really fluidly, and everything just unfolds on the screen, and it doesn't feel like you're looking at animations. It looks like it feels like you're looking at performers on the screen. It's just so well done.
Love it. It's my favourite fighting game of all time. And for so many of the reasons already stated. I'm not a fighting game person, but it welcomes you with open arms. It's, hey, look, come play me, and look and feel like you're a badass. Like, it makes you feel like the whiz. You know, I'm just like, I know fighting games now. Then I'll go play Street Fighter and be absolutely dog shit. And sometimes I still forget this was actually out on launch as well, the Dreamcast. It's so crazy. Like, amazing game.
all right, Rich. Let's see if I get this right or not. Or what
You get
game
it
I'm
right.
thinking is your number one. I mean, I'm thinking it's Shenmue.
Of course it's Shenmue. It was close with Spirit of Speed 1937,
Of course,
but it
yeah.
edged out. It just, of course it's Shenmue. It's a legendary game. It is just, where do I start? This was, before Shenmue, we had like Mario 64. I feel this was one of those games where it felt like you was living a special moment playing it for the first time. First time I saw gameplay footage of it, the trailer that was on one of the Dream On demo discs, it made you feel like, okay, we're living in a special time. They've got this brand new genre called full reactive eyes entertainment, where you can go anywhere, do anything, open any drawer, play on any capsule toy machine, go to the arcades, and you just felt like you were actually in a second life, basically. You play as a teenager called Ryo Hazuki, and your father is murdered. You go on a quest trying to find out basically what led to your father's death. You're looking for this thing called the Phoenix Mirror, looking for the assailant called Lan Di. You go to various places from Yokosuka to Dobuita you end up going to Hong Kong. It's just so much you do along the way. Like, from you have to get a job working on the docks as a forklift driver to make money, but the world around you is living and breathing, so it runs on the actual clock. So shops, businesses in the town will open and close at certain times. When it rains, everyone's umbrellas come up. When you get towards Christmas, the decorations appear in the town. There's a Father Christmas. It's just all the little things. I remember when I first played it, it's almost the equivalent of it's the video game equivalent of going on a holiday. When you get to your accommodation, you go for a little walk to see what the surrounding area is like, and you kind of get used to it over the coming days. That's what playing Shenmue felt like for the first time. It felt like, I'm living in this other town now for a week or two, and I'm just exploring it and getting used to where certain little landmarks are and going about my daily routine, except I'm avenging a murdered parent. So, worst holiday ever. Won't go again. And
Going to the supermarket and just browsing their shelves,
Yeah.
the stuff that you could buy.
looking at fish sticks and all kinds of fun stuff. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
You can go to the arcades. I can play Space Harrier and Super Hang On. I can play some dart. Yeah, there was never a game like it. And there are a lot of things. I won't pretend now that this is the best thing since sliced bread. There's things now I look at Shenmue 20 odd years later, and it's a bit like, oof. Like, the dialogue in it is fucking shocking. Like, and at the time it was like, we've got a full cast of, recorded actors. Everyone's voiced. It's living and breathing. It's like a Hollywood production with like an $80 million budget, and it is fucking like sub Resident Evil 1 levels bad. It really is. I won't put it. It is shit. But I love it. Yeah, I love it. There's so much charm to be had from that, and it's part of the appeal now. And I think some of the love Shenmue gets is a little bit ironic, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but there are things in it to genuinely love. And it's a game that it feels like it's dated, but it hasn't at the same time. And I've played it recently, and I still think it holds up. Like, the controls, I like the way the actual movement of Ryo's still quite smooth in a slightly janky way, but it could be a lot worse. The fighting in it still feels very rewarding. It uses kind of a slightly stripped down version of the Virtua Fighter engine. There's just so much in this game to unpack, and I could probably talk about it all day, but I love it. I really, really love it. It's just incredible.
It's just another like genre defining game. Like, you look at open world games through from this point onwards up to now, and they've taken so much from Shenmue and put it into their games. And like we just take it for norm that these features are in these games now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And these features may not have existed without Shenmue.
I mean, there are some things I still like. I'm like, oh, fucking hell, that's annoying. Like, there's things I will I'll take this game to task for. Like, oh, I have to get to this place for 9 p.m. Oh, shit, I didn't get there in time. I now have to wait till 9 p.m. the next day.
Yeah.
I have to go home, go to bed, wake up, get my allowance from San, go back into town, kill time.
Yeah.
It's like...
I remember I played this game this year as well. Well, not this year, sorry. Now, but we're in 2023. But I played it this time last year, and I remember that those instances are fresh in my mind of like hanging out in the arcades and just playing the darts and the hang-ons and the just to try and kill time. And I'll go to where I need to be like an hour early. I'm like, come on, let's go. I want to get on with the story and stuff like that. So yeah, that part was slightly annoying now, but maybe back then it was just a revelation.
Yeah, I think that's exactly that. I don't think I was probably grinding my teeth back in the day. I was like, oh, it's so cool. Because it was an actual concept of time and schedule and routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And before there was a proper routine, I think we were young enough at the time. I was like, I wasn't working. I didn't have that kind of daily grind, so I actually appreciated it. Well, now I'm like, oh, fuck this. I've got a job. What do I want to do this shit? Like, my job from my job, where I have to, like, in my virtual world that I inhabit. Like, I think it was a lot more forgiving when I was 16, 17 years old. So, but it's fantastic. So good.
Game. And definitely up there for me on Dreamcast, but maybe not for Steve.
Shenmue is an irredeemable piece of shit. No, it's people have drawn on me in the past to talk about Shenmue and my dislike of Shenmue to varying degrees of comedic effect. I need to soften up on Shenmue a bit, because the fact is, Shenmue crawled very slowly so that games like Yakuza could fly, right? And it has to be appreciated for what it did. Even though it did those things really badly, but the fact that it did them is enough, because it introduced so many concepts to video games that were not there before. I think if you want to have a Shenmue-like experience, there are countless other games now that can provide that for you. You don't have to go back to Shenmue to do that. And it's kind of... It's like, do you remember, there's that... I think it's like the late 19th century, there was that French film about a train that pulls into a station, and it was a super big hit. And it caused people to run out of the theatre because they were like, a train! I look back on Shenmue, and it's kind of like that. It's like... It's like, oh my god, you can open any drawer. Yeah, you can open any drawer. It's about as interesting as doing that in real life. There's a part in Shenmue where you get a job. Don't make the mistake of thinking that anything interesting happens. You fucking get a job in that game, and then you do a job. You drive a forklift truck around, and you move boxes, and you do a job. Like, it's...
not to be fair, though, in real life, you wouldn't have to have a race every morning, though.
No. Okay, there is that. You're right. There is that.
Hell yeah.
I don't know. Shenmue... Yeah. I respect a lot about it. It's got a really good atmosphere. What Rich was saying about it, like being like going on holiday. I don't think there was any game before this that depicted a small town in a foreign country with this level of authenticity. It really felt like you were walking around a small town somewhere. And that was really cool. And the passage of time was really cool. And the main character is told, don't stay out late. And if you do stay out late, all the businesses start shutting and drunk people start appearing on the street and it gets a bit darker and it starts to feel a bit dangerous. All that stuff's awesome and really cool and really well done. It's a bad game, though.
Fuck off.
And not content. And in Shenmue 2, they are not content with making you get a job driving a forklift truck. They make you get a job moving boxes manually. So that was their innovation for the sequel.
Don't forget the job where you have to air books as well. You have to take books.
That's true. There is a job.
Spread them out on the table to air the pages.
Oh my god!
But you have to not drop them, and then if you do, you have to start over. And
that's right. Yeah, because you're carrying them by like in a really tall stack, and you have to balance it. Yeah.
You have to use like quick time events. Beep, 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 appears on the screen. Oh no! Drop the books. Start again.
That's right. Yeah.
So you have to symmetrically stack the books.
No, you have to. You basically carry a stack out down some stairs, and then you have to put them out on a table to air the pages.
Oh god!
In the sun. It's just like, why gaming?
Well, it's funny that you're speaking about Shenmue 2 because that's my number one game for the Dreamcast. So.
I can see why. It improves a lot of things that were fucking annoying.
Not
in
enough. Not enough.
Not from airing books and carrying boxes, apparently.
Dear.
And I passed on Shenmue 2 back in the day. It was too late in my Dreamcast life for me to play, and I never seeked out to play it over the years, and I felt quite bad about that. So one of my missions for 2022 was to play Shenmue 2. That's what I did. I picked it up on the Xbox Series S for both games for like £5, like stupid money for such
crazy
genre-defining games. And I was blown away by Shenmue 2, completely amazed by what they achieved with this game. They did everything they did with the first game, but they made it better and they made it bigger, which is, I guess, is what you would expect from a sequel. But like when you're thinking about this game is coming out on the Dreamcast and the size of this game, it's just immense. Like I couldn't get over how many districts there were. I just couldn't believe how big the map was. And going to all these different areas, I don't think there was a district I actually went to. I didn't need to for the story, but it was there if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I don't think I had to, or briefly went there for one reason or something. As soon as I landed in Hong Kong, I was just completely blown away. And the story, I was just totally invested in. I loved the story that they were telling. I wasn't a fond lover of the carrying box game thing.
Oh, you didn't like the bit where they made you get a job in the game? You weren't a fan of that?
I didn't
the bit where you just do manual labour? Is that not? Did you not enjoy that part?
I'm not being funny, but in the first one with the forklift driving, I quite enjoyed that. I quite liked the lifting the boxes up, taking them to the next warehouse, putting them down, going back, getting the next ones. So I don't know, for some reason it just kind of like I don't know.
For lunch as well. We actually had a lunch break as well.
Yes, and the lunch break, absolutely.
Oh god.
But for the carrying boxes, and it was one of the easier games to play to earn money. So you did have to do it quite a lot. I tried to do the arm wrestling game, which I think you could get more money from, but I was just unsuccessful with that one. I didn't like that one too much. So it always boiled down to the box carrying thing, and that dude going like, I don't know what that weird noise he was making.
I remember that weird noise. Yeah.
It's just that weird. Oh, it gets awful.
And I used to get annoyed at him when he got annoyed at me for dropping the boxes. And I'm thinking, well, maybe you shouldn't be telling me to go right, left, 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 right, right, left, right, left, right, up, down. You know, maybe what kind of madman does that when I'm trying to carry this heavy box?
You're sidestepping. Just go forward, you prick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Especially I'm only carrying it like 20 centimetres from where I picked it up. That was one of the bad things of the game. But all the new characters that they introduced into the game were fantastic, and it just did everything better than Shenmue, and I love it for it. I wish I played it when it came out. I think it would have absolutely blown my mind. I think it probably would be one of my all-time favourite games if I'd played it back then. I think I would have just gone absolutely apeshit for it, but I went apeshit for it last year as well. So I hate to know what I would have been like back then if I did. I love the idea of the arcades were still there, but they were bigger and better, and the fast travel was much.
Oh God, yes.
Much needed and welcome feature. I loved it, especially after coming from, because I replayed Shenmue first just to refresh my memory of the story. And so having all that, what Rich was saying about having to wait like 10 hours for a shop to open, or the tattoo shop to open, or whatever it was, to be able to just fast travel to that point was just brilliant. Loved it.
Yeah, no, that was much needed feature. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to say some positive things about Shenmue 2.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad
I really like the
down.
bit where you can go up or down those stairs and a plane flies over. That's cool.
Yeah.
I also really liked the fact that they doubled down on the like authentically being in a foreign town thing by making Rio go somewhere that's not his hometown, so you both feel like you're a fish out of water. And I really liked that you could talk to people. Anyone, I think you could talk to anyone in that game, right?
Yeah,
you can talk to a lot of people, and you can ask them for directions. You can say, "Excuse me, can you tell me where this shop is?" And they will go, "Follow me," and then we'll turn around.
The following feature is amazing.
And they would just walk like through like the city center, past crowds that were crowded around like street performers and stuff. And that was a moment for me where I was like, "Wow, that's fucking cool." That this atmosphere is extremely well done. Sadly, it then devolved back into searching every drawer in a room, which was a shame. But there are some really, really cool things in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the biggest things as well for me with the game is the ending, because you go through the whole story beats, and it's a long game, and you get to the point where you end the story, but the story hasn't actually ended, and then you go off on another journey. Like, I was like, what the hell is happening here? Like, I'm now going somewhere else. The story hasn't finished. And the game just goes completely off into a completely different direction. You go to this island, I think, and you go on this journey to this house, but then you've got to, like, try and find your way there by choosing the right path through this forest. And there's all these cherry blossom trees all over the place, and you're talking. I'm so rubbish with names and stuff. Well, the girl's name,
Shenhua, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. You're talking
Shenhua,
you're talking to her this whole time, and you're kind of getting to know her. You know, you can see this kind of like relationship, not love relationship, but like just these two people getting to know each other through this journey through the forest. And you could take wrong turns, and you could go a completely wrong way. But it's she seems to have completely forgotten where her house is. But you kind of forget that because of everything else that's happening, and like you finally get to her house, and then like there's the Shenmue tree, and I was like, oh my god, like you've gone through all this whole like main story section of this game, and then it just cuts to this completely different experience. I don't even know how else to explain what it is, but it was just amazing. I never really experienced that kind of coolness in a game.
It was a bold choice to end the game that way, because you're basically ending the game by walking and talking for a long time.
Yeah, but it didn't bother me.
I absolutely respect their commitment to weaving a narrative in that way, over putting in QuickTime events and fighting and having a crescendo ending.
Yeah, totally agree.
It's a shame, that they couldn't follow that up, because that that kind of sucks all of the reverence out of that ending, really, because they never made the third. I mean, they did make the third one, but you know what I mean. Like they weren't able to follow through on it, which is a shame. But yeah, I can respect that is the direction that they went in at the end.
And I think that's what makes it that little bit. I talked about how much bigger the game is and what a marvel that was to be able to. It was the same amount of discs that number 2 came on that number 1 did. So like the size of the game, the new supporting characters, the story, the fast travel, or the improvements they made in the game, and then this ending is just what tipped it over for me to make it. It's just memorable. Never forget it.
The film was just a train pulling into the station, but people had never seen anything like that before, and they just loved it. Anyway, sorry, I'm being a dick now. Sorry.
That was brilliant. That was well played.
That woke Chris up.
That was so,
Oh shit, man.
that was well played.
Well, Chris, you've been sitting there listening to us all ramble about the Dreamcast. Has it made you want to play one now?
Kind of made me want to revisit it and maybe try and find one and to see what all the fuss is about. Because I've always heard good things and I've never actually owned one or played one. So you guys have done a good job, apart from maybe I might be second guessing Shenmue, because the only thing
You should absolutely play Shenmue, but play it in like a group setting. Play it with somebody so that you can, laugh at the parts of it, which rather than get frustrated with it, you can sort of share
I remember
how
Rich
janky it is.
losing his shit about it. And then he said to me, listen to the music. So I listened to the music because I love soundtracks and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty sweet. Things like the early days of YouTube. I think we listened to that like at school or something.
Christ.
And as from what I've heard, I think the music is the only part that I might enjoy of Shenmue.
The score does slap though for the series. It's
It
beautiful.
does. It does. It is
The
good.
Sedge tree is just like, oh, the music is beautiful.
That's your lot for this one, and that's your lot for the 90s, I guess. In our run of the 90s, we've done it, guys. We've
shit.
gone from 1990 all the way through to 1999. That's it. We're done.
Wow.
Congratulations,
Thank you,
chaps.
Steve. You come in at the end just to steal the thunder.
I will also get the medal for achieving
Yeah,
this.
exactly. I feel quite proud that we've managed to get through the whole decade and covered what we've covered. So
Yeah, seriously, yeah. I can't be
You
more
should.
proud.
Yeah, you should.
I
mean,
a good run. And
You guys have been sort of honing something over all this time, and I don't want to suggest that it was ever bad, but it has become what it is now over time, and it's it's way better than it was when you first started, and it was good, and it was good when you started. To be clear, it was good when you started, and it's only gone from strength to strength, and
yeah, don't worry.
so.
I've got a whole thing to say about what stuff that at the beginning. So yeah,
Good. But
to be
yeah,
fair,
and
I had no idea what I was doing either. I was like, okay.
yeah.
that's fair. I mean, why would you know what to do?
was
It's kind of
new
a
to the
weird
whole
thing to
thing.
do,
I
isn't it?
was-
Really.
yeah.
But yeah, and it's an absolute pleasure to come into it at this point. So
Awesome.
yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Cheers, dude. And like I said, that's it. Well, we'll let you get on with the day. It's been quite a long one this time. So thank you for joining us as always. And if you have enjoyed what you have heard today and you would like to support us, then we do have a coffee page. And I noticed this on Twitter actually the other day. Their official website asked, how do you actually pronounce coffee? And they had the three options. And actually the real way of pronouncing this apparently is coffee. It's not coffee. Coffee. So we have a coffee page where you can donate to the show starting from £1.
I'm not sure I like that.
Apparently that's the official way of saying it. So
Okay, interesting.
like
It's
it
the
or
official
lump
way
it.
of saying it. Why is it not just one word? Why is it two words and confusing people to say Ko-Fi?
because it's trendy.
Oh, God. It's like when sci-fi changed from sci-fi to sci-fi.
Oh, Siffy, yeah, Siffy channel, I remember that, yeah.
Christ.
A massive thank you to all who have done so. You're all legends. And if that is not right for you right now, you can also support us by giving us a review or rating on Apple or Spotify, or just go out and share and retweet our social posts. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. You can find links to our Apple and Spotify pages on our website. And speaking of the website, please go and check it out at thewolfiepod.com. It's home to all our links, back catalogue of episodes, game reviews, articles, and much more. But chaps, it's time to say goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
My name has been Jason. Dom, it's over to you.
Well, that's it for another episode of What's Wrong with Wolfie. The boys are off now to hit the roulette table with Patricia Routledge. See you later.
How'd you know? What's wrong with Wolfie? I can hear him barking.